So, guten Abend. Hier ich begrüße Sie ganz herzlich and the most heartily welcome goes to Tadashi Kobayashi, der der Stipendiat ist im Moment in der Schmälerhaus Kuratorenresidenz, die wir letztes Jahr mit Hilfe des Goethe-Instituts hier aufgelegt haben. I speak a little bit in German before, and later we switch to English or even to Japanese. I do not know. The audience is very, very international, which is wonderful. Und ja, also ich möchte ein paar Sätze zu dieser Kuratorenresidenz sagen, weil die vielleicht es doch noch nicht alle wissen, dass wir hier mit dem Schmälerhaus ja als Museum ein ganz besonderes Haus, ein architektonisches Juwel, kann man sagen, aber auch ein sehr geschichtsträchtiges Haus hier mitten in der Innenstadt von Düsseldorf haben und dass wir das eben als Veranstaltungshaus nutzen, das wissen die meisten vielleicht schon, aber oben gibt es eben in der 4. und 5. Etage gibt es Wohnräume und ein Bad und eine Küche und das war die Idee gewesen, warum das nicht als Gästehaus nutzen und da ganz gezielt uns auch Gäste von weiter her einladen. Und das war wunderbar zu sehen, dass das Goethe-Institut da sofort auf diese eigentlich ganz einfache Idee angesprungen ist und hat uns die Möglichkeit gegeben, über ihre Netzwerke in den verschiedenen Ländern, und die Regel ist eben, oder unser Vorhaben ist es, dass es Gäste aus außereuropäischen Ländern sind, die dann für 3 Monate nach Düsseldorf hierher kommen und zwar mit dem Museum irgendwie verbunden sind, die Infrastruktur nutzen können, mit uns, den Kollegen, die dort arbeiten, sich verbinden können, aber dass sich eigentlich ansonsten keine wirklich große Auflage damit verbindet, sondern es ist einfach ein Ort, wo man sein kann, wo man von dem aus man auch, und das hat Tadashi Kobayashi auch schon genutzt, im Vergleich zu Japan ist man hier natürlich sehr nah an verschiedenen anderen interessanten Orten und er war schon in London, in Berlin und wird noch einige andere Reisen auch von hier aus unternehmen. Aber ansonsten eigentlich ist diese Kuratorenresidenz im Grunde auch dazu gedacht, ja, einfach auch Zeit zu haben, zu forschen, nachzudenken, zu lesen, alles das, wozu Kuratoren eigentlich nie kommen, wenn sie ständig immer an irgendwelchen Projekten ganz explizit arbeiten. Und die einzige kleine Auflage, die es dann doch gibt, oder ein Wunsch, der sich von unserer Seite aus an den Stipendiaten verbindet, ist eben, dass während der Zeit des Aufenthaltes hier 2 Abende gestaltet werden. Und hier haben wir heute den ersten und ich freue mich sehr, dass Tadashi Kobayashi, das lesen Sie hier, wo er Kurator ist in Kobe an einem ganz wunderbaren Museum für moderne Kunst. Und er hat vorgeschlagen, 2 Vorträge zu halten während seines Aufenthaltes, die sich beide ja mit auch diesen interkulturellen Konstellationen verbinden, an denen wir im Moment auch im Rahmen eines Projektes, das Museum Global heißt, sehr dran sind, also wo wir zum einen die Moderne befragen und sehen, was der West als Westliches nach zum Beispiel Japan importiert wurde, wobei man, vielleicht werden wir darauf auch kommen, ja hören, dass dann um 1900 zu Beginn der Moderne ganz viel Japanisches ja auch im Westen maßgeblich eigentlich zur Ausbildung einer Moderne beigetragen hat. Das wird also der heutige Vortrag sein, wobei es auch viel um eine Malerei geht, auch um Akte, um Erotik, um Obszönität, um das, was dafür gehalten wird, um die ganzen Missverständnisse auch, die es dann von japanischer Seite bei dem Übertrag einer der Malerei der Moderne aus dem Westen gegeben hat. Und der zweite Vortrag, der dann am 19. November stattfinden wird, ist dann eben der Übertrag in die heutige Zeit, ins heutige Japan. Und da ist es dann nicht mehr How Japanese Behave in the Museum, sondern How Japanese Behave in the Street. Und wie die Kunst auch in die Straße geht. Und da bin ich sehr, sehr gespannt. We are really looking forward and I'm very excited to hear that, because I think that there is in Japan is a lot of change in the last years. And there is also, the artists are also dealing with that. And today, I mean, it will be a little bit more historical talk you will give us. And yeah, I don't want to look so much forward to your talk, but I'm very excited to hear and to see the images also. And Thank you for being here, Tadashi.
Doris, thank you for your introduction. I also thank everyone for joining the lecture today. I'm honored to stay here at Shumela House as a resident of residency program. My staying is realized by the most generous support and effort of Dr. Marion Ackermann, Director of Kulturstiftung Nordrhein-Westfalen, and all the staff of this wonderful museum, and also kind support of Goethe Institute. I also like to thank all of them, and I want to thank Dr. Doris Christopher again. She has been helping me always, even before my leaving from Japan. Thank you so much, Doris. The lecture of today is a part of the serial program entitled Museum Global with question. When I see this title, what comes to my mind at first was relatively short history of Japanese museum as institution, which started about 150 years ago, and also a history of Japanese artists in Meiji era. They were definitely a cultural elite and tried to learn the values and aesthetics of Western civilization, which is very different from their own. At the beginning, I would like to show one caricature illustration. This is a scene from a gallery of museum or pavilion drawn by French artist Georges Bigot. The funniest thing in this image would be a kind of stupidity of a lady in the center of the scene. She looks at the painting of female nude with much of curiosity or embarrassment. But you can see that her kimono is rolled up and her legs are boldly exposed. Well, certainly Vigo told us some truth. You may know that Western foreigners who visited to Japan in the Meiji era sometimes surprisingly reported their encounter to the scene that Japanese women took a quick bath in a washtub in house garden, with revealing her chest without hesitation. Their surprise are caused by the difference of the border of embarrassing and not embarrassing, or decent and indecent, between Western visitors and Japanese people. How much you can show your body without hesitation depends certainly on the culture you belong. If you want to enjoy this caricature much better, you should know the famous incident in Japanese art history. It was happened in 1895 when the work entitled Chosho, meaning morning toilet, was displayed at the exhibition. The name of artist is Seiki Kuroda. Seiki Kuroda was born in 1866 in the current Kagoshima prefecture as a son of aristocratic samurai family. In later years, he himself had been bestowed the knighthood of the Viscount and elected as a member of the House of Peers. From 1884 until 1893, Kuroda studied in Paris. The purpose was to learn Western law. But during his sojourn, he decided to abandon legal study for a career as Western-style painter. He entered the studio of French painter Raphael Collin and started his career as an artist. Collin was a French academic painter, and his main arena was salon. His style is eclectic one, That is to say, combination of academic human figure and bright hues, which was come from bright outdoor sunlight, influenced by the aesthetic of Impressionism. On his return to Japan, Kuroda played active part as a new leader of painters who aspired to learn Western-style paintings. Later years, Kuroda was supposed as a professor of the National Art College, Tokyo Fine Art School. You may say that without Kuroda, it would have been difficult for Western-style painting to take its root in Japan. Kuroda enjoyed his fame during his lifetime as a leading person of Western-style painting in Japan. But his works were frequently questioned by public and by the police. The reason is that Kuroda aggressively challenged to draw and exhibit the female nude paintings. At that time, to publish or to show nude to the public was prohibited by the law of obscenity. You may not find any problem in Kuroda's nude paintings today. He always drew human figure, human body, like a Greek sculpture. At least he never painted genitals apparently. But in 1895, Kuroda's Chosho, Morning Toilet, attracted public attention and caused a scandal at the first time. This painting was executed in Paris in 1893, just before painters returned to Japan. There was no problem when this painting was shown in 1894 at the sixth exhibition of Meiji Art Society. This society was organized by Western-style painters in Japan. However, in 1895, when this painting was exhibited in the Fourth National Industrial Exposition organized by the government, a lot of newspapers were publishing critical articles, which was denouncing Kuroda's painting as obscene, even though this painting was also blessed by the honor of the second prize of virtuosity at the same occasion. Criticism on newspapers were quite tough. Kuroda's painting drew the attention of the public with much of curiosity, as Bigel's caricature illustrates like this. But Ryuichi Kuki, head of juries, treated this case reasonably. He respected the procedures and jury's judgment and never intervened to the display of Kuroda's painting. For us, not only for you living in Düsseldorf, but for Japanese like me, it is completely difficult to find obscene character in this Kuroda's painting. However, for the most of Japanese people at that time, it was not funny situation to feel obscene if you see or show naked female figure. The only exception was pornography. It was 6 years before from the scandal caused by Kuroda's Chosho that the first scandal of such kind had happened in Japan. In this case, the police accused the illustration of naked female image in a magazine, and eventually this volume was banned to sell. This is the image of illustration drawn by Japanese-style painter Seitei Watanabe for the novel Kocho by Bimyo Yamada, published in 1889. The title of magazine was Kokumin no Tomo, meaning nation's friend. When Kuroda's work became a subject for discussion of good or bad to depict the human figure in nude, opinions were divided even among the artists. Some artists who aspired to learn a technique of Western style painting also showed negative opinion for the representation of nude, even though they themselves understood that the depiction of nude is the basis of Western art. They think that it requires much more time for showing nude to the public in Japan. Another opinion said that you should not tackle a task of nude if you are immature and unskilled. Of course, Kuroda himself was upset about criticism, which was, for Kuroda, a sign of lack of understanding on the art. He wrote his friend that he was determined to pursue the way he believed. Then, 1897, Kuroda showed female nude again, which was entitled Chikanjo, in the exhibition of Hakubakai. Its meaning is Association of White Horse. Hakubakai is a group of Western style painters of new trend around Kuroda. Chikanjo is translated now as wisdom, impression, sentiment, and the painter explained that these female figures are the allegory of three conceptions: ideal, impression, real. This work was revised by the artist himself and then sent to Paris to be exhibited at the World Fairs in Paris in 1900, where this painting was honored by the silver medal. To the Hakubakai exhibition, there was no direct intervention from police, but one art magazine which put on the photo image of this work was banned to publish because of obscenity. Then it happened in next year, 1901, at the occasion of the 6th annual exhibition of Hakubakai, that the police directly intervened in the display of artworks. In this exhibition, Kuroda's female nude, this is title, and other female nudes by his peer artists were shown. Kuroda's master, Raphael Collin's female nude, was also attached to them. The police took those nudes as obscene and ordered members to make a special room for nude paintings and to control people's entering into there. Kuroda and his peers insisted that every exhibit should be open to the public. And then they found the third way as a compromise. They covered around the waist of female in painting with cloth like this. This is a notorious scandal called Koshimaki Jiken, which means loincloth incident, underwear incident. Yeah. 2 years later, from this funny incident, on the occasion of the 8th annual exhibition of Hakubakai in 1903, nude paintings were displayed isolatedly in the special room, where only involved people were allowed to enter. This kind of zoning or segregation in displaying nude were continuing several years. For Japanese today, nude paintings of Kuroda are never to be quite obscene. So is there no need to worry about the obscenity in artworks? Is there no funny incidents such as loincloth incident today in Japan? The answer is yes. The discussion on the freedom of expression is never ending in Japan as well as in Western countries. It should be so, I think. We need to keep sound discussion on it. But in Japan, I have an impression that severely repressive actions by police authority concerning about the obscenity towards the artworks have got increased in these years. One of the typical cases was happened in August 2014 on the exhibition of Aichi Prefectural Museum of Art entitled Photography Will Be. This exhibition consists of works from 9 Japanese photographers who shows new developments in this genre. One of them, Ryudai Takano, showed his work entitled Oreto, meaning with me. This work consists of serial double portraits of artist and his friend and so on in nude. In some of these portraits, genitals are apparent. After the opening of the exhibition, police ordered the museum to take off the pieces which show genitals of the wall because of possibility of obscenity. Museum and artists decided not to obey the order of police and to correspond in another way. Artists covered waist of models with very thin paper for hiding genitals like this. I will tell you how it happened. Museum and Takano had recognized the possibility that Takano's work could be problematic under the current Japanese law. For realize the presentation of this work, museum researched well on the similar case, consulted a lawyer, and then tried to meet the proper requirements. That is to say, the space for Takano's work was separated independently, and at its entrance, a warning notion was displayed. This notion explained the content of exhibits with noting that it contains sexual expression and asked to pay attention. Minors are required parental consent to enter. This kind of operation, clear zoning, is quite normal today in Japan for displaying works dealing with sexual motif. I cannot say that Takano's work are free from eroticism, which has relation to obscenity. To the contrary, I think that one of his main themes is eroticism. To be exact, he is trying to think about or explore into, through his practice of art, the differentiated relationship between one and another, which becomes sometimes erotic, sometimes non-erotic. I understand that the subject of With Me is such a delicate relationship between artist and others. For all that, however, anonymous visitor claimed to police that he or she had found irrelevant obscene work in this exhibition, and then police asked the museum to take off the pieces which show genital apparently. Museum and artist tried to justify the presentation of the work as that which was never lack of required special care. But their explanation didn't gain the understanding of the police, who adhered to its claim that if genital is visible in the frame, there would be no chance to avoid the judgment as violation of law with current interpretation of it. As received this final claim of police, museum and artists decided to correspond in more evocative way. Artists covered waist of model with very thin paper for hiding genitals. Some small pieces were covered all over. Artists say that in this way, the fact of intervention to the exhibition in museum became visible. I quote English translation of the text of artist from Dan Avi's blog. Quote, I had 3 choices. First, continue with the exhibition as before. Second, remove the specified works and replace them with unproblematic ones, making it seem as if nothing had happened. Third, make it clear which works had been targeted, and continue the exhibition in that way. If I were dead, or if for some reason another person had to act on my behalf, the first and second choices would be possible ways to continue with the exhibition. However, since I am alive and can respond to this matter directly, I decided to alter the exhibition in order to show how this intervention took place. In this way, the audience too can consider the situation. End quote. Takano's response was also intended to remind us the pastime incident of Kuroda, which I mentioned before. And actually it did. We now realize that the problem which happened 100 years ago still remains unsolved. What should we learn from these two incidents? You may complain about the backwardness of Japan, where freedom of expression is not established yet. But if you remember the title of this lecture series, Museum Global, with question again, you may also realize that you need to treat this problem a little bit more cautiously. Now back to Vigo again. This satirical drawing makes fun of gap and difference of criteria which set up the border about obscenity. One is how much you can represent human body naked as act of art. Another is how much you can expose your body in daily life with keeping good etiquette. But it could logically be possible that two criteria are different. If we realize the possibility of coexistence of two different criteria, we may take a position that the lady with rolling up kimono is not funny at all, and that these Japanese are never inconsistent in their attitude. This must be the perspective of Museum Global, isn't it? Let us see more in detail, and we can find various types of manners, customs, and senses which were under transition in these days. The first one is the author of painting on the wall, who is Japanese cultural elite and introduces Western art to Japan. The second one is the woman in Western style dress, staring at nude paintings. She looks like confused by nude painting, even though she pretended to be habituated Western costume. The third one is the woman in kimono with bared legs. She covers her face with sleeve. We can take this gesture in two different meanings. A sign of embarrassing, she feels ashamed, or a sign of laughing. She laughs at nude painting. I am curious now how Kuroda would react to this caricature. Does he find it funny? Or does he think of it as an insult for Japanese and get angry? And I'm also curious that how far am I from these pastime people? Which type is the closest to Japanese today? A sense of shame toward naked body, or an array of relevant criteria for judgment of obscenity is determined by each culture. It is varied very much historically and geographically. You may know that in 2013, the British Museum held an epoch-making shunga exhibition. But shunga was ostensibly prohibited pornography at the time they were published. That was a kind of open secret, and it enjoyed big popularity. In the letter of Kuroda defending his own nude painting, you can find the word of shunga. He used this word as a meaning of poor pornography which is lacking of artistic quality. He said that he would be troubled if someone equated his nude painting with shunga. Kuroda and Meiji government had conflicting views on Western-style nude painting, but they shared similar views towards the shunga. They thought that shunga is vulgar and obscene. The shunga exhibition was also a big news in Japan. People who know very well about art, its importance and its limits in Japan, were talking regretfully about the difficulty to hold such an exhibition in Japan. Because shunga is well recognized of its importance by art historians and professionals, but it remains problematic to show to public. This difficulty is caused by the apparent representation of genitals. In fact, press reported that the British Museum were trying to find Venue as a counterpartner in Japan, but in vain. However, as a result of the continuous effort of people concerned, shunga exhibition has been realized in Japan at the private museum Eisei Bunko. Eisei Bunko is a private museum with marvelous collection to be compared with Japanese National Museum. This museum and its collection are derived from distinguished family Hosokawa-ke. Eisei Bunko had consulted with the local police if there would be problem, and then decided to hold this first 100% shunga exhibition in Japan. This exhibition started at September 2015 and will be on show until this December. Difficulty of showing shunga in public have made some people to sigh over the lack of understanding of the role of art and instability of status of art in Japan. However, as we have seen above, it has been definitely a tricky thing to consider on the relationship between sense of moral toward naked body and art with capital A. This difficulty becomes much more complex if we think about the awkward position of shunga in the period of Seiki Kuroda. For contemporary Japanese people, shunga is not porn anymore. Shunga can take rest in museum because it already retired to be porn. Or we Japanese are now reaching to appreciate complex idea of art, which allow us to admit conflicting views at the same time. That is to say, at the one hand, shunga is porn, and the other hand, shunga is art. In the Meiji era, government strictly prohibited the representation of naked figure represented by shunga. This act was based on the conviction that it leads to the modernization of Japan. In this period, sense of moral and aesthetic toward the naked body was forced to change by the government through the police authority. In such circumstances, Kuroda and his peers struggled to accomplish their own nude painting as an artwork with the technique of Western-style oil painting. Kuroda and his peers believed that their art could be a proof of their own and their home country's modernity. Governments and Kuroda's contradictory attitudes have the same root in their desperate effort of seeking for absorbing new culture and sensibility. With this regard, Biget's caricature looks much more cruel than funny. Every Japanese in this picture, including Kuroda, lives in conflict. But their conflict makes me feel much closer to them than to Biget. Every Japanese artist in the period of Japanese modernization could not avoid conflicts with different culture and aesthetics which came from overseas. We may be able to call it globalization in art. I think that is why Japanese contemporary artists often referred to works of Kuroda. It seemed that they think they can find renewed artistic value in his contradictory or complex approach. Because in today, leading power of westernized art lose their advantage and is regarded from relativistic perspective. For example, this is a project of Takashi Murakami entitled An Homage to Seiki Kuroda, Wisdom, Impression, Sentiment. This project is of 2011, appeared in his solo show at Gagosian Gallery in London. Prior to be sent to London, only 2 days special viewing was also provided to Japanese public. This sequence itself emphasizes artist's intention. Murakami's work is always a assemblage of Japanese self-orientalized peculiarities within the concept and context of Western contemporary art theory, that is to say, global standard. In this project, Murakami collaborated with 3 founding artists called Eshi. This word is taken from old name of painter and illustrator as craftsman. They are very popular in the fan circle and are highly estimated by Murakami. Murakami made a fine replica of Kuroda's work, Chikanjo, as a kind of research and also ordered 3 artists to revival Kuroda's work. 3 artists, Tony, Kei, Ashito Oyari, are active in the circle of Fanjin Doujinshi, which is independent from commercial publishing industries. Contents of Doujinshi is in many cases fan fiction of popular commercial comics or animation, and they are mostly pornography with exaggerated representation of genitals. Murakami often professed that you can find good artists in the circle of doujinshi, and this project could be understood as a strategic discourse that Eshi, artists of doujinshi, represented here by 3 artists, have a common ground with Eshi, artists in Edo era who worked on shunga. Except K, 2 artists' main field is certainly genre of pornography. With this information, you may find out the one thing that differentiated Murakami's project from his collaborators' ordinary works. It is the presence of genitals. This difference is significant because in shunga, presentation of genitals have much more connotation than mere sensual stimulus. In shunga, genitals are drawn as large as the face of characters. One said that this is because the former also bestowed significant role to represent its possessor's identity. But as you see, genitals are clearly raised away from Murakami's project. That is same as Kuroda's original painting. With avoiding the depiction of genitals, Murakami juxtaposed 2 contradictory features of shunga and Kuroda. They are both acting as representative of uneasiness and awkwardness of Japanese modern art. This is another work from much younger generation. The artist is Yoichi Umetsu, who is also full of conscious about the dilemma of Japanese Western style painting and tried to answer for it with his own works. Umetsu's work is entitled Wisdom, Impression, Sentiment, A. Usually just last A is added to the title of Kuroda's work. Umetsu's work consists of 4 panels, which are all self-portraits of artists. Posture in 3 panels are repetition of Kuroda's work, and then Umetsu invented false posture shaping capital A, you see? A, and represent it in red tone. Style of painting is also differentiated from Kuroda's. Kuroda's work is characterized by linear contour, smooth surface, not to leave any trace of a brush stroke, and a flat decorative background. Umetsu's style is characterized by the spread small, colorful painting dots, which is much more similar to the style of post-impressionism, especially pointillism like Giorgio Sura. These various elements implies artist's ambition to overcome the Japanese modern master. As for the genital, Umetsu was hiding it with putting between his legs. Artist says so. This gesture is a sign of blurring the sex of the model. Artist alluded that this gesture makes also reference to the video performance of Vito Acconci. As I said before, in Shunga, genital is endowed with important role as a kind of alter ego, which is hidden under the clothes in everyday life, but also irreplaceable part of persona. This idea or understanding of human nature put another artist in my mind. She is Rokude Nashiko, the last person I talk about today. Rokude Nashiko's work are conceptualized with the intention to emancipate female genital, which is always treated only as an object of sexual desire, and to get it back to her as her own property. One of her projects was to build a kayak in the shape of her own genital, and she tried to do crowdfunding for its realization. For contributors, 3D scan data of her genital were provided as a privilege. This meant to be a material for new works created by contributors by themselves. This act was suspected as the distribution of obscene material, and she was arrested in July 2014. It was 1 month before Ryudai Takano's case war happened. She was released after 3 days lockup, but she was arrested in December again. At that time, Minori Kitahara, who is feminist and activist, was also arrested for displaying Rokude Nashiko's work in her showroom. Kind of this type works. Rokude Nashiko's court trial is still ongoing. Rokude Nashiko's work and practices is certainly not the easy type that all of people welcome without hesitation. Her career as an artist is not firmly established yet, not likely Ryudai Takano is. Those disadvantages led some people to think that her works can't be evaluated as work of art and that there is no need to approve her freedom of expression. Needless to say, that is wrong idea. We need to keep in our mind that such a misunderstanding could be happened in public reaction. We must remember these misunderstandings just not to repeat it. I think her arrest is unjust because the object under suspicion is work of art by the artist, not the obscene object. Now I try to read the text of the law. Quoting English translation by Kanako Takayama and Chuwen Chao. Quote, a person who distributes or displays in public an obscene document, drawing, data storage medium of electromagnetic records or other object shall be punished by imprisonment with work for not more than 2 years, a fine of not more than 2,500,000 yen, or a pretty fine, or by imprisonment and a fine. The same shall apply to a person who distributes obscene electromagnetic records through a telecommunications line. End quote. What is the definition of obscene? Without it, it is not easy to determine whether works of Rokudenashiko or all of works today I mentioned is obscene or not. The court will judge what is obscene in the light of conventional wisdom, that is to say, common sense. But I have tried in today's lecture to say that such a conventional wisdom is uncertain and flexible, easily changed in time and space. In the SNS like Twitter or Facebook, it is easy to find comments such as that how strange it is to find a double standard in treatment of obscene images in Japan, or that lamenting backwardness of Japanese stupid regulation of obscenity in comparing with much more deepened understanding of art in Western culture. I confessed here that I also have same feeling many times. But we cannot forget that these opinions are supported by the foreign standards, like a global standard. We can now get broadest information via internet about cutting-edge practice or progressive environment for art of all over the world. Circuits of information, its speed, easiness, and scale would be beyond the imagination of Seiki Kuroda and his contemporary. But after learning on those global standards, do we start to think of our own behavior funny or strange like Bigo did? I don't think so. That is why we can keep talking to neighbors who live with different sense of values, customs, or culture about art. And we do need to do so. Only through this kind of effort, we are able to start to build our own conventional wisdom, which most of participants in community can approve. To neglect this effort is to hand over the right of judgment to the power equipment, such as police or judiciary, without any condition. We need not to laugh at the woman with rolling up kimono. What we should do is to talk to her and her neighbor wearing pretty dress, and let's take Kuroda and Bigo into the party, and then start to talk about what is obscene, how far should we permit to represent within the name of art, and build together our conventional wisdom, which we all can compromise. Serial incidents I mentioned today may make you wonder whether Japan is already modernized or globalized. To answer this question, I dare to say that Japan is modernized, at least as far as we notice that we can and we need to decide what is obscene, not by waiting the judgment of power structure such as police or judicial, but by the effort to participate for shaping the conventional wisdom through the democratic way of discussion with people who have different sense of moral and aesthetic, and to find a point of compromise. Thank you for your kind attention.
Yeah, thank you very much. This was really a big tour d'horizon to say, and you really got a moment which is really one of the crucial questions if sexuality and our leading ideas about moral or about nakedness. Is that going to be globalized, or is that even possible? Because this is so special, and maybe I can just first ask you one question on that caricature, because I'm not sure. Maybe I'm not really very clear about that situation, but what is that woman who is showing her bare legs? Is she imitating, or is she just mocking on the image she sees? Can you
Okay.
explain that for me? Maybe everybody got it, but I didn't.
Okay.
the clue of the image.
Okay. Thank you. This gesture is not. I read as it's not a reaction to the painting. It's just for the when the people need to rushing or move easily. Sometimes do like this. It's just for the comfortness for her action.
I see. It means she's coming she's approaching so quickly, and then she had to take the Kimono. Haben Sie das jetzt verstanden, wo der Witz drin liegt? Also es gibt dieses Gerenne mit dem Kimono und dann muss man den hochnehmen, weil man natürlich sonst stolpert. Und sie ist so schnell, um dieses moderne Bild zu sehen, ist sie gerannt und imitiert damit im Grunde die dargestellte Frau.
Yeah, you can find many interesting characters actually. So you see, this boy is very good interest. So he takes note for maybe he will be kind of critic or artist maybe. So he's very good beholder of this nude painting, and you see this old guy make big mouth. He is really astonished by this bold expression of nude. You see, and yeah.
And the one at the right.
And this one, he wears the costume, so I think he's kind of God, and so the God could be calm and makes no reaction to the exhibit, but he can't refrain from reacting to the exhibit. I think so, and and he is very. His face is very vigorous, so maybe he is involved to the art world, I guess. So there you can see many types of characters in this caricature, and Vigo met. Vigo is French, and Seiki Kuroda learned in Paris. So it was said that they have some connaissance a little bit, so they meet 3 times maybe, and Vigo is very sympathetic to the style of Impressionism, and Kuroda is no, so that's why they are not so good.
And has that been published in a French newspaper?
Yeah.
Is it from a series which is called Shocking au Japon, and there are many other caricatures?
Oh yes.
Okay.
Yes, many. And Vigo is very famous in Japan because he also drew the caricature about international situation about, for example, about the content of contract between Japan and England in 1902, or Japanese-Russian War and kind of that. So we Japanese see his caricature in the textbook in history. So how foreign countries looked Japan. So yeah, I learned with the gaze from abroad in school. Yeah.
I would like to go to, or is there another comment or a question to that image? I do not want to be always in the first line to ask a question. If not, I would propose if we could go to that three-part painting of the three naked women,
Of Kurator.
which has been so much, because there I would say that we can see in this period around 1900 there's certainly giving and taking from both sides, because we all do know that Japanism in this
Yes.
period has made the modern masters in
Yeah.
Western art, Gauguin and
Yes.
Monet, and they all look to Japan and to this kind of flatness in a way. And here we
Yes.
also could compare this to Gustav Klimt, for example, who also painted very similar women as
Yes.
allegories for.
Yeah, I actually agree to your opinion, and this picture is actually this picture, this painting style is very different from this. So because he's very intentively make this painting more Japanese, like, I think. So that's why he makes clear contour, and the background is, as you said, kind of gold, metal, flat background, So I guess he is very, very conscious about Japanese style painting, its tradition, and he tried to combine the Western
And you said
technique.
he started in Paris, or he lived in Paris for a while,
but
and then he went back to Japan. And
yeah, and that's why he got the second prize, silver medal in World Fair in Paris. But he didn't continue this style in Japan after back to Japan. So
did he change then totally?
he back again, kind of combination of academic figure with bright colors. Yeah. So yeah, it's very interesting point why he didn't continue this kind of thing.
Maybe he did not have the financial success with that, or were there in Japan in this period, have there been collectors? Has there been an art market for paintings like that?
Actually, Kurator is very special case. He find very good patron during his lifetime. So the problem is not financial one, but I think he always said in his lifetime the tradition of Western style painting is built on. So the most important theme is kind of allegorical expression. Maybe I imagine it was kind of history painting with allegorical expression. And he tried to make such a kind of grand-manière painting with Japanese history. But his challenge is not good success. Just one piece was finished, but that work burned by the war with the Chosho, as today I show you. And those paintings are a collection of patrons, and their words in Kobe. Yeah, so that's why that's another reason to I take this picture today. Mm. Yeah, so can I continue? So the very interesting thing is Kurator has close relationship to political person because the patron is a brother of political important person. He became prime minister. His name is Sayonji Kimochi. So he's very close to the political world. So maybe the incidents about nudo things sometimes happen, but it doesn't go extreme. It could be because his relation with such a person, maybe. And this work makes big scandal, but the prime Sayonji Kimochi asked his brother to buy this as private collection to his brother. So maybe it works very big caring about the scandal, maybe. So it's very complex.
But it sounds as if there also is a kind of political interest in
so.
it. And this I find very interesting. And someone of you maybe has been to the talk of Wendy Shaw some weeks ago. And she is a scholar in Berlin now. She's Turkish. And she gave us a lecture on Ottoman painting, and also to see from the Ottoman Empire, it's the same period, it's around 1900. It's a new young republic, which is then in the 20s is inventing itself, so to say. And she brought also very interesting examples from painting from this period, which was totally political. How to say, vereinnahmt. It was totally political, interpreted or included or so. And this could be for our project. I could think this could be a very interesting approach to see how a national style is defined, or how the West is also included in that, and because it's so visible that the style of a painting can be interpreted in every political or another intention.
Yeah.
Yeah, can I ask you if you have to? Yeah, Cornelius.
When you showed the works of the Japanese artists who made the molds, casts of her vagina, that went on display, and then she had lots of trouble and went to prison. It's all about obscenity, but I'm wondering, what are people actually afraid of? What's going to happen if you look at art like the boat or the sculptures? I mean, what's going to happen to you? What's the worst that could happen to you? I don't understand why this is so dangerous.
Yeah. I think so, but maybe kind of, I don't know how to say in English, smoke barrier, the authority tries to how what's going on with this case. So that's the first step for the authority, I guess, because she is not so famous. She was, I dare to say, she was not so famous. And sometimes the power structures try to glaze on case with not so, how do I say, not so with the person who doesn't get so much attention from public. So she's kind of scapegoat, I guess. And in this case, the one problem could be the scan data. So it was very rare thing at this moment of this 3D scan data, because the 3D printer has been sold for normal people, you know. So maybe it was very new things about 3D sculptural data. This was one thing, and the other thing could be the gender trouble, I guess, because in Japan, I ashamed, but there are many female genital image in the magazine or kind of thing for male, you know. So, but she do for female, you know. So that's why she gets so much attention from kind of male homo society, I guess. Mm. And yeah, and actually she's not so good. She's not good at behavior. So she always talk with the word of female genital with kind of buzzwords, you know. How do I say? So I want to say it, so I didn't say it, but but no, it was also her kind of performance. So with doing so, she tried to ask to the public why it makes you so uneasy. So it could be kind of relativity between male and female. So I respect her act, but I don't repeat it. Just anyway. So as you see, like me also a little bit felt awkwardness about in front of her act and her works, but it could be the reason why she was chosen. But it's kind of trap, you know. It's not there. There are no relation between. There are no relation to her right to be artist or to behave as artist. So we must make clear the difference between my taste, your taste, and her right, our own right. So no, it's not about her, the problem of her right, but this is a problem of contemporary Japanese people's rights. So we can not.
It's also it's also a question of emancipation and equal rights for women and men, and something she is fighting for, isn't it? Can't you see it in this way too?
I don't think so. She just want to play with her body. So she in her struggle, she doesn't want to be a like male. No, she just say so she simply she get back to the right of represent her body.
But if you see, maybe you can show us again the Murakami depictions of women bodies. I mean, this is also very provocative in a way.
Yeah. So there, it was very difficult things to fight against the depressive situation with contemporary artists. As Doris says, Murakami's tactics is very from of male things, so very extreme male things, very looks like Shunga, and that I guess he do it very intentively for the man world, I guess, and she is not such anyway. So if we need to concentrate on the one things. If we talk about if she is good, if she was bad, the Murakami is also bad, and make things is kind of chain reaction. So every expression become on target to the targeted. It could be targeted on the censorship or kind of. So we need so how do I say? I'm sorry, it's not so easy to explain. But so we need to cut each part. So someone don't like her, someone don't like Murakami. So we concentrate on the least I'm sorry, I lost my words.
I would just like to make a comment on this.
Yes.
She was criminalized for this, and this is what disturbs me very much. So it was taken notice of everything, and she was criminalized. This, I think, is very radical. Who decides this?
Actually, in her case, now trial is still going, so she didn't be criminalized, just testified in the court. Anyway, so that's the point of today's lecture. So finally, the Japan is a legal nation, so the justice and the court decided she is guilty or not. But so in Japan, the arrestment is very huge thing. So if if you are arrested 90% or more, you will be guilty. So it's so that's why it's not the. I mean, the police is very. Very. They don't move before they believe they win. They will win on the court. I mean. So that's why the percentage of is very high in Japan. Anyway, so that's why we are very worrying about this case. So before the judgment was decided, we need to talk about things to make pressure to the how do I say to the court decision, or we can make a kind of a social atmosphere or social understanding about her act. So that's because the judgment is always consider about social common sense. So that's why we can not forget about this case. So maybe police want to be forgetted about this case, you know. So the police maybe want to people forget about these things, but we shouldn't do so. So who is, of course, the jury in court, because Japan is legal nation, but we can make pressure on the decision. Yeah.
As you were just talking about the common sense of the reception on such images or imagery, I need to ask again, you did explain it a bit, especially on the historical shunga representations, but if I think of, I don't know, on contemporary manga porn imagery that also circulates, that comes from Japan, I need to ask you, how's the reception on these images today? Is it equally difficult? You know, are there similar, you know, decision at court being made, or is that something that actually kind of works with common sense? It's just something that I'm curious about, you know, how the opinions might vary between those very radical, very obscene imagery that obviously Murakami is also playing with and working with, and the ways of kind of a playful approach to the own body. So yeah, that would be my question.
It's extremely, how do I say, very, very, your question is about the contemporary doujinshi fanjin expression about the film.
I'm not sure about the terminology, but I guess it is.
Yeah. So it was very extremely aggressive, I think. So I can't recommend to my family, of course, but it's problem about the fictional image representation about the. I don't know how about in German, but to me, on the fictional things, the any kind of representation expression could be free. I think so, but it's very. Yeah, I understand many people don't like that, and they want to prohibit them to circulate. I understand that, but it's so. It could be. You will find the difference between me and you, but in Japan, just this kind of discussion also difficult. So I dare to say we at least start to discuss about from this very basic point. So because we didn't discuss about our right between or with our own neighbors. We just check the situation of abroad or the opinion of authority or kind of things, you know. So so that's why at last sentence I say we need to talk with kimono women. She is our neighbor because maybe me and she have different opinion, different taste, but we start to talk with about our right and our sense to the expression or representation about sexual motive. I'm sorry, I hope this could be the answer to your question. No?
Maybe not. I mean, I'm
Answer-
very
answer.
thankful that you brought this up, because I'm also thinking that we are getting here now in a situation where we see that there are certain limits and borders, and this is so much a cultural thing. And like how we have been educated, how we have been, in which cultural context we lived, how to judge on sexuality, on depiction of sexuality, on porn, if it's porn or if it's art. I mean, this all exists in Germany too. I remember, I mean, it's maybe 10 years ago or so, there was an exhibition, and Thomas Ruff, he took from the internet the nudes. And he worked on these images, and the police showed up immediately when these images has first shown, and they would like to see, is it porn? Is it something kids should not see? And do we have to bring up big panels to say, please take care for our kids? What we in the museum also have sometimes when we are showing, for example, a video of Paul McCarthy from the 60s, and we see him playing with his body and with everything, and with ketchup as blood, and so then we also have to, or we think we have to, as a museum, which is a public space, to bring up a panel. Please, parents, watch your kids and see if they should see that. So, and I think there is so different, the connotation and the borders and the limits are so different. And this, regarding this notion, which is so nice, of globalization, is really very, very interesting to see how different this is in all over the world. So I think this could go now further and further, and I maybe think, because it's already late, and I thank you very, very much to have brought up this issue, which will certainly will be followed still. And vielen Dank an alle, die gekommen sind. Und ja, das geht dann weiter am 19. November, dann, wenn es sehr viel zeitgenössischer wird und sehr viel noch mehr um die zeitgenössischen, auch mehr um Protest- und Demonstrationsbilder und Aktionen von Künstlern in Japan handeln wird. Ich darf vielleicht noch Sie einladen, auch am nächsten Donnerstag zu kommen. Da machen wir eine ganz andere Art von Abend. Da werden wir nämlich für Andreas Schmitten, dem wir hier dieses wunderbare Set verdanken, schon seit 2 Jahren haben wir hier viele, viele Veranstaltungen gehabt. Und wir haben damals, als wir begonnen haben, haben wir nie eine Eröffnung in der Art gemacht für Andreas Schmitten. Das holen wir jetzt nach nächsten Donnerstag. Und wir werden uns dann, es wird auch eine schöne Party werden, glaube ich. Also alle, die sich hier gerne wieder einfinden mögen oder überhaupt sich mit der Arbeit hier auch von Andreas Schmitten schon die ganze Zeit beschäftigt haben, da werden wir doch, mit Künstlergespräch, mit einem Gespräch mit Andreas Schmitten. Und dann haben wir noch einen Architekten eingeladen, der sich auch mit Aldo von Eyck gut auskennt, und dem Architekten, der dieses Haus hier gebaut hat. Damit vielen herzlichen Dank. Thank you again, Tadashi.
Thank you.